Walk into any grocery store on Earth, you will find honey in a bear-shaped bottle, honey in glass jars, raw honey, manuka honey, wildflower honey. Entire shelves dedicated to one thing produced by one insect. Now, here's a question nobody thinks to ask. Bees are not the only insects that make honey. Wasps make it, ants make it, stingless bees across South America and Southeast Asia make it. Dozens of species across the insect world produce some version of the same sweet substance. So why does every jar on that shelf come from one specific bee? Why did human civilization look at the entire insect kingdom and decide that this one creature out of millions of species was the only one worth farming for its sweetness? The answer involves chemistry, danger, quantity, and one of the oldest relationships between humans and any other creature on Earth. And it is stranger than you think. Let's start with the most obvious question. Do wasps actually make honey? Yes, they do. Several wasp species produce honey. The Mexican honey wasp produces enough that indigenous communities in Central America have harvested it for centuries. Certain species of paper wasps store small amounts of honey in their nests. Some solitary wasps produce sweet substances as larval food. So why are we not eating wasp honey? The first problem is quantity. A honeybee colony at peak summer can contain 60,000 to 80,000 individual bees. Every single one of those workers spends its entire adult life collecting nectar and converting it into honey. A single hive can produce anywhere from 30 to 100 pounds of honey in a good year. That surplus is the entire point. Bees produce far more honey than they need to survive winter, and humans figured out thousands of years ago that they could take the excess without destroying the colony. A wasp colony works completely differently. Most wasp species die off almost entirely in winter, with only a mated queen surviving to restart the colony in spring. They have no reason to stockpile enormous honey reserves because there is no colony to feed through the cold months. A wasp nest might contain a few tablespoons of honey at best. You would need to raid thousands of wasp nests to fill a single jar. The math simply does not work, but quantity is only part of the story. Because the second problem with wasp honey is the getting it part. Honeybees are not passive creatures. They will defend their hive aggressively when threatened. But here's the thing about honeybees that made them farmable despite that aggression. They are manageable. Thousands of years of selective breeding have produced domesticated honeybee strains that are remarkably docile by the standards of stinging insects. A calm, experienced beekeeper in proper equipment can open a hive, inspect frames, and harvest honey with minimal stings. Wasps are a fundamentally different experience. Wasps are more aggressive, faster to sting, and capable of stinging repeatedly without dying because unlike honeybees, they do not lose their stinger on first use. A disturbed wasp nest does not produce a manageable defensive response. It produces a coordinated attack from every individual in the colony simultaneously with no upper limit on how many times each one can sting you. There is no pleasant way to harvest wasp honey. There is no protective equipment that makes raiding a wasp nest a calm agricultural activity. The danger-to-reward ratio is catastrophically bad compared to beekeeping. Nature essentially built wasps with a do-not-harvest sign that humans have respected almost universally throughout history. Now here's where the chemistry enters the story, and this is the part that genuinely surprises people. Honey and wasp honey are not the same substance even though they share a name. Honeybee honey is made from flower nectar. Bees collect nectar, which is essentially sugar water produced by flowering plants to attract pollinators, and then process it inside the hive through a combination of enzyme activity and evaporation until it becomes the thick, shelf-stable, antimicrobial substance we recognize as honey. The chemistry of this process is remarkable. Mature honey has a water content low enough that bacteria cannot grow in it. It contains hydrogen peroxide produced by enzyme activity. It is acidic enough to inhibit microbial growth. Properly sealed honey essentially does not spoil. Archaeologists have found edible honey in ancient Egyptian tombs thousands of years old. Wasp honey does not have the same properties. Wasps collect nectar, but they also feed heavily on other insects, fruit, and protein sources. Their honey production process is less refined. The resulting substance has higher water content, different enzyme composition, and lacks the same antimicrobial properties that make bee honey so extraordinary as a food. Some wasp honey is also potentially toxic depending on which flowers the wasps visited and what else they have been consuming. The same risk exists with certain bee honeys from specific plants, so-called mad honey from rhododendron nectar being the most famous example. But the risk is considerably more variable and less understood with wasp-produced substances. There is another dimension to this story that goes beyond pure practicality. The relationship between humans and honeybees is one of the oldest agricultural partnerships in existence. Cave paintings in Spain dating back approximately 8,000 years depict humans climbing rope ladders to collect honey from wild hives. Ancient Egyptian records from 2400 BC document organized beekeeping operations. The Greeks wrote extensively about bees. The Romans maintained elaborate apiaries. Medieval European monasteries kept bees both for honey and for beeswax used in candles. This is not a recent commercial arrangement. It is a relationship refined across thousands of years of accumulated knowledge about bee behavior, hive management, honey harvesting, and colony health. That knowledge built up generation by generation, culture by culture, until beekeeping became one of the most sophisticated and widespread agricultural practices in human history. No equivalent relationship ever developed with wasps. Not because nobody ever tried, but because wasps offered so little reward for so much risk and difficulty that the knowledge never accumulated, the techniques never developed, and the cultural tradition never took root. Bees essentially invited the relationship by producing something valuable in quantities worth harvesting and behaving in ways that made harvesting survivable. Wasps did neither. What about stingless bees? Because here's where the story gets genuinely interesting. Meliponian bees, commonly called stingless bees, are found across tropical regions of South America, Africa, Southeast Asia, and Australia. They produce honey they cannot sting in any meaningful defensive way. They are in many respects easier to keep than regular honeybees. And indigenous communities across these regions have been harvesting stingless bee honey for thousands of years. Meliponiculture, the keeping of stingless bees, is an ancient practice with deep cultural roots in Mayan civilization, Aboriginal Australian communities, and traditional cultures across tropical Africa and Asia. Stingless bee honey is genuinely different from regular honey. It tends to be more liquid, more tart, with complex flavor profiles that honey enthusiasts describe as superior to conventional honey in interesting ways. It commands premium prices in specialty markets, so the premise of the question is not entirely accurate. Humans do eat honey from other bees. We just eat it far less than honeybee honey, for one simple reason. Stingless bees produce dramatically less honey than honeybees. A stingless bee colony might produce 1 or 2 pounds of honey per year compared to the 30 to 100 pounds from a honeybee hive. Scaling stingless bee honey production to global commercial levels is essentially impossible with current knowledge and technology. The honeybee won the commercial honey competition not because it was the only option, but because it was the most productive option by an enormous margin. Here's what the whole story tells you. We eat honeybee honey and almost nothing else, not because of some arbitrary cultural accident or because nobody ever considered alternatives. We eat it because honeybees solved every problem that makes insect honey production viable at commercial scale simultaneously. They produce enormous quantities. They are manageable enough to farm safely. Their honey has extraordinary chemical properties that make it shelf-stable and medicinally valuable. And they formed a relationship with human agriculture so ancient and so productive that thousands of years of accumulated knowledge back up every jar on that grocery store shelf. Wasps make honey, but not enough, and at too much personal risk to collect. Stingless bees make honey, but not enough to feed a global market. Other insects make sweet substances, but nothing with the properties, the quantity, or the farmability of what the honeybee produces. The honeybee did not get lucky. It earned its place on that shelf through a combination of biology, behavior, and an 8,000-year partnership with the one species on Earth, productive and stubborn enough to climb a rope ladder to the top of a cliff just to get at the sweetness inside.